I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was the cooldown system.
Yes.
I think that might be my favorite aspect, just managing your skills and the dice that you use and your fatigue, knowing what's coming up in future rounds and making sure you have abilities to do so you're not just kind of taking a turn off, which I did.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a really interesting puzzle that when you first like learn the game, feels like it's just like, oh, it's just kind of, it's as a mechanic to make sure you can't do the same thing over and over and over again. But like when you actually get into it and you get to play with that mechanic, you get to play with that puzzle, being like, oh, actually I'm not going to do this, or I am going to do this because this is going to go into the cooldown. And it was so interesting to try and manipulate that. And then you had that ability, which was, I think it was one of your mage abilities, where you could bring something out of your cooldown so that you could almost be a little bit more fast and loose with it. Because you're like, well, I can get this out as long as I have tenacity to do so. I thought that was really, really fun.
It added just like that little extra layer, and especially with the fatigue, because there's so many things you can do with the fatigue. You're like, oh, lockpicking, I really want this item.
Yeah.
I'll take a fatigue here or there. Or like, our group wants to move a little bit quicker, a little bit of fatigue. I think we're good. So just having the small choices within that cooldown system to make big, like, end game plays is
and because you can really extend your turn as well, because like you can get a fatigue to essentially do like another attack, or you can get a fatigue to change your stance. And so it's like, it's there, but if you do it too much, if you're too fast and loose, it'll really start to mess you over. And so it's really interesting. I like the fact that you, like in Skyrim and stuff like that, you can have an axe and you can have a sword and you can have some magic. And so you're like, okay, this turn I'm going to use my destruction spells, but then those are going to go into my cooldown, so I can't use that again. So now it's like, okay, well, then I guess I'll switch over now to like two-handed weapons and then hit with this big old sword. And it's cool you're kind of forced to do slightly different stuff each time, which I think is really, really interesting.
I really enjoyed that. And another big thing I really liked, items. The items feel very purposeful. They feel like they have a place, and they fit very like thematically. The fart in the jar, man.
Yeah, that's great. Just stink bombing everyone I can. Yeah.
It's gonna get you good.
It's gonna get you good. Yeah, it was good, and they felt impactful, which sometimes like items in games are just kind of like, oh, you do this, you get a health, whatever. There's kind of like there. These ones felt like every single one we got was just like, oh, that's cool. I can now do this, especially the relics, which they're relics, right? So they're supposed to be cooler, but those really felt like, oh, this actually like matters. This is really, really nice. Yeah, it was very, very cool. And I really like the different classes, like mage, stuff like that. Those were very cool, the way you use the proficiency. But then the skill trees of getting the different, going up the different tracks, that was just like, ooh, man, we just barely touched it, because we were talking, like, you did restoration, I did one hand, and I was like, man, one hand is so cool and it's so useful. And I was really just working in like the level one hand already. I was like, this is so awesome. And then your stuff with restoration, I was like, man, I can't wait to get into like all the different skill trees and stuff.
The mixing and matching, and like you really can choose your own path. I love playing like magic players, and I love Arcana, but also when I played Skyrim, I loved playing like a spellblade. So I wanted to like one hand wield a sword and the other hand cast spells, and I still feel like I can do that in this. I don't feel like I'm locked into that one very specific role. It feels very flexible, and you get to do what you want.
Yes, yeah, you really do. Yeah, it's cool. I'm so excited to like, because you have your race, you have your kind of class, and then you have your different skills and your skill trees and stuff. And it's like, man, you can just start making a whole bunch of different characters with just that. And we've seen so little of it, really. And it's just like, I'm very excited to see. And then we're also different regions too. We've only been in the Black Marsh, so it's just like, yeah, it's just gonna be cool.
Yeah, I'm turning into like a little fangirl right now. And then like you think we're just talking about like what we're doing and our skills. Like we haven't even like touched upon the enemies and all the different things they can do, and how that like forces our hand to do certain things within the battle.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every combat we've been in has been vastly different based off the enemies that we've pulled, and it has really influenced the decisions we made. And I love having that. Like I love having my hand forced to do something different and think outside the box every turn. So I'm not just like, all right, I'm going to roll this dice, turn one every time.
Well, especially things like poison, things that are going, again, into your cooldown track. And so it really really affects you, and it can kind of keep getting pushed farther and farther back. And then the enemies and all that stuff is very familiar if you've played other chip theory games. You play like Too Many Bones or like Hop and Mock, because they're moving around in similar ways, they're activating in similar ways, which is nice because you're like, oh, okay, like I kind of understand how this works. And the delving was also wild, which went great for us. We crushed it easily. Had to make it look like we weren't great. But no, it was super interesting. And then again, kind of like these, like Skyrim, it's like, hey, you just do whatever you want. You can kind of like go over here. We didn't come across any side quests, but there's gonna be like side quests you can go on. But you're also kind of on a timer too, because you need to finish this part of the scenario by a certain amount of days. So you can't just do it forever, because then real bad stuff's gonna happen.
Doing it forever,
I know, I want to do side quests. That's all I want to do. There needs to be a side quest mode where it's like, you just do all
Free
side
play
quests.
mode.
Yeah, exactly.
I think ultimately the game is like incredibly dynamic, but also intuitive. So at no point did I feel overwhelmed, but at the same time, I did feel like I was being challenged.
Yeah.
So it was a good balance, and I really love that in games where I feel challenged and I can still have fun and still feel like I am making decisions on my own. So
yeah, it was cool. I liked it a lot.
slam dunk for me.
Yeah.